I want to change the shape of footwear and make footwear look sleek and sexy, but also feel comfortable. This came from just a pain point of mine. I've worn uncomfortable heels. You know, you come up like blisters, bruises, like it's not sexy. It's doing exactly what we set out to do, like the opposite of what we set out to do. We wanted to create heels to make women feel sexy, and it is not doing that.
Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. It is your host, Brittany Wheeler, and I am excited for another incredible episode in season 4. I literally can't believe it. It's really honestly super wild. If this is your first time listening, stop right now, follow us, click the plus button, subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this, because I'll tell you a secret. When you do that, it actually comes up on your feed organically. So you don't have to search for the show. You don't have to wait until the next episode. And for it to get these crazy announcements, it'll literally be right in front of you. And I know after this conversation, you're going to want to have more episodes like this. And we have over 100 that you can dive into past this guest. So let me jump in and introduce her. She is a daughter, a sister, a friend, an entrepreneur, a creative, a dreamer. She's a designer, which will be really cool because I don't have designer friends. She's a world traveler and a fellow born New Englander, which it really does mean something in this world, let me tell you. So please welcome Maritza Berger to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is going to be an awesome conversation, and I'm really excited. What I do in this next segment, which is a little unique, but I pass it back to you as the guest to share either how we met or a story of us. And it really paints the picture and gives the audience a foundation. And I've found in over 100 episodes that it invites them in to the friendship, into these really beautiful conversations, because they're like, oh, this isn't just some random stranger. So I'll pass it to you. Whatever you want to share is up to you.
Let's see. Okay. Trying to think of the first time. Was it in Wilmington? Probably. Was that the first time we met in person?
I think so.
Just looking back, I'm like, when? I feel like so. I feel like I've known you for quite some time because of our mutual friend, Christopher Whedon. And so I heard of you for a very long time and who you were and just little tidbits of your story. And I think meeting you in person just solidified everything because you were that energy and that great, presence that Christopher explained and kind of alluded to. And I just think, I'm grateful to have met you because we're all in this world and journey of building our businesses, and it can be very tough, doing it alone, especially. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, you feel like you're alone a lot because there's so many decisions you have to make by yourself. So yeah, grateful to have met you. I think just meeting you in person, just your energy and vibrancy is clear. So happy to have met you in person.
Oh, thank you. It's like the biggest honor, honestly, when someone says that, like, I'm like, the hype is not, too hypey, right? Like because,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that like don't live up to the hype, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I tell often that one of my dearest friends, she first met me, like we do business together as well. And we had known each other virtually, similar to you, where it's like, I know of her and like I've seen her, but like, who is she? And she met me in person. She literally was like, you are just the same, if not better in person than you are online. And I was like, that is the nicest compliment I've ever gotten. Thank you so much.
And one thing I'll tell you, and I don't know if I've ever told you in person, but with good friends and people in your life, I feel like it's important to push them and to question things and to give people feedback. And you do the same thing with Christopher that I do. And I honestly appreciate that so much because I feel like that challenges people and you need people like that in your life because without that, there's no growth. And so I appreciate that about you as well. You're not just here to listen and be there as a friend. You're also be there as a person to make people grow, and which is great. It's impactful.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you seeing that in me, and I think that's something, in general, why people are attracted to me as a friend, right? Is because they just feel like there's just so much like I have a gift of being able to tell people in love. With Chris, it's a little bit different because, sometimes you got to really hit him just really quick. You don't need to get all soft and be like, I can tell this bothers you. You just got to like rip the band-aid off. But with other people, it can be hard, right? To hear things they need to do better. Yeah, I think it's a gift that I have a way of saying things in love. And because I've done it so many times, people um they don't expect like what I'm going to say to hurt them, right? Like I think there's a lot of people that try to give feedback and because it's very self-centered and it's not outward or it's not about the other person. And so it comes off like really harsh or hurtful even though that's not the intent of the person sharing it. And so I think it does take practice of what does it look like to put yourself in that position of like, hey, I want to make this person better. How do I like detach myself from it in a way to be like, this could help you, and then cut the strings of the outcome, right? And be like, okay, well, whether you do it or not, no big deal.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is building trust originally. It's hard to do that with people who don't know you and don't understand you, but as long as you have that trust built, you should be able to, speak honestly.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, with people in my life, like usually the trust comes really quickly. And I think even, you and I know that like with some people in our lives, it does take more time to build that trust in order to get past certain layers and certain parts of them. And that's okay, right? That just means that you have to work for it, right? It's not just going to come easy and they're not going to give you um that that freedom, right? You're going to have to earn it,
Mhm.
which is good, right? It's really humbling, I think, in friendships when you're like, "Oh, no, you don't have access to me." I'm like, "What do you mean? I have access to everybody all the time." So
Yeah, yeah, you
ridiculous.
have to have your style. I'm very much not a texter or even phone calls I'll do, but I will say I'm that person that wants the quality time. So, I'm a planner, so I'll be like, 3 o'clock Saturday, let's meet up, let's connect. But I really don't do a lot of the in between and the small talk. I'm more just like, let's spend time together.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same way. I also think that, like, it really depends on, what spectrum of friendships, right? Like I know some of your friends in Florida and I have friends like that where they're in the place in our lives where like we don't need to see each other for months and months and months, right? But when we see each other, like picks it back up again. And that's really incredible because that means you spent a lot of years building that trust and that foundation. And I think for me, I like you, I really do enjoy the quality time and just I think I've learned a lot recently with friendships that, as seasons come and go and seasons change and what we have going on in our lives, I think it also is just another level of grace. It's another level of figuring out, where friendships are. Like I have a lot of incredible, deeply incredible friends. And even still, we're having to figure out, okay, this is going on in our life. This is going on in your life. How do we make this work? Right. Because what worked at 18 didn't work at 25. Worked at 25 is not going to work at
Yeah.
36. Right. So it's constant attention, but in the ways that make sense for the friendship.
Yeah. This reminds me of the story of when we first met and how we were walking. I don't know if you want to share this one. And we're on
I
the
think I
street
know what you're talking
walking
about, but
we're on the street walking to a coffee shop, and Britt goes, "Oh my gosh, long time no see," or what did you was that what you said initially?
yeah.
Or "Nice to see
Oh
you," or something
gosh.
like
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
It was something like, oh, what was the word you used? It was something like, "Long time no see," or like, "It's so great to see you." And it was this couple, and they looked shocked, like a deer in headlights, like they had no idea who she was. And it took you a second because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I know you had that moment where you're like, "I really don't know who they are. I thought I knew who they were." But your energy was
It
so
was
contagious that it had all believe like, we were all in belief that you knew this couple, they just forgot who you were. That you guys didn't
oh
know each other.
gosh. You took me back
Yeah,
to
that
that
was,
time. Yeah.
great. That was great. I wish
Yeah.
we had, some video like that because it was just an amazing experience. It was so wholesome because you were so excited. You were so excited.
I was so excited, and to be honest, I texted the actual couple later, and I was like, "Just a heads up, I thought I saw you in the streets," and they're like, "Yeah, no, we're in Germany," and I was like, "Well, this is definitely awkward because it for sure wasn't them," but I swear they looked like them, And also, to be fair, I wasn't wearing my glasses, and so I couldn't see that far. It was a whole thing. But yeah, that was a good story. And just I spent a lot of time in Wilmington, building those connections so that when you do, I think there's something really beautiful about being in community and walking the streets and going to coffee shops and things, and you run into people, that's the way it should be. And that was definitely one of those moments, but like
You said
gone
now.
wrong.
Yeah, you said, "Hey, stranger," and it was
It's
truly
like
a
a
stranger.
word. It's truly a
The wording
stranger.
was the best, 'cause they're like, "Hey, stranger," and they truly were
And
strangers.
you guys wouldn't let me like leave it. Like it just was, yeah, it's hung in the air for a
It was
little
just
bit.
so
It
good. I
hung
mean, the wording, everything, it was perfect.
it hung in the air. So
And
good.
then we went to a
So
adorable coffee shop right after.
yes, yes, Maroon Monkey. It's a great coffee shop, and we redeemed ourselves with a great cup of coffee. Did you? I know you're traveling, but did you happen to bring a mug with you, or do you have a mug?
I have a coffee cup.
That's
I
okay.
don't have a
Okay, so
mug.
what I this we're gonna this is an interactive experience, everybody. This is an
Okay.
immersion. Okay, we're gonna plot twist this. So this is a part of the segment where I have people bring a coffee mug that they drink out of often
Mhm.
and tell me the story of like how they got it and why it means something to them. So I want you to think in your cabinets, like, is there a mug at home that you use and why do you use it? And tell us like how it ended up in your life.
There's actually a very special one, and, I wish I had a show, but then I need to do a whole we need to be here for at least a couple minutes because there's a whole thing behind it, but I'll explain. Um, when my mom so, by the way, I always drink coffee, we've got our coffee here. But I am traveling, and I'm coast on the other coast, so don't have the mug. But, there is a mug that my mom gave me when in December so I guess we have to give it let you know a little bit of the backstory, but my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in November of 2024, and she gets gifts ahead of time. She starts shopping for Christmas well in advance. So, she had gotten a bunch of gifts for me when they went on their last trip to Alaska, and I say this because I opened all my gifts, and at that time, it had only been about a couple weeks since my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but her health quickly declined. It was sad because she was completely able and functional, November of 2024, and then December by Christmas, she was in a wheelchair, and she was going through a lot, so she couldn't really talk about a lot of stuff, but she did know what Christmas is. My mom loves Christmas, and so we were very much like, "Let's open the gifts." So I opened all the gifts and, um, a bunch of little things on my mom's travels. I think she forgot to shop for my dad because that didn't he didn't get any gifts really, but, what you got that's another part of the story.
Choose the gift.
But
Yeah.
one of the yeah, one of the gifts that she kept telling us there was something hidden, but we couldn't find it. So I think she intended on getting it for my dad, she just didn't make it to get it. So one of the gifts was a coffee mug, and it just said Alaska, like, gold something, and it was just a black mug, and I didn't think much of it, but I was like, "Oh, that's cute," like, my mom got me something on her Alaska trip, and my mom loved to travel. He My dad always said, he told me recently, he's like, "I took mom on her first flight to Cape Cod, for either their honeymoon or it was something when they first got together, and he said she was hooked. From the moment she got on that first flight, she was hooked, and she just loved to travel." So I thought, obviously the mug's super thoughtful, like, I was so happy that I got something from my mom that was thoughtful, and then it was, maybe a month or so later, like, I, go back to Charlotte for a little bit, and, I'm doing dishes and everything, and I kinda open up the dishwasher, and I was like I'm just thinking, just pulling out your dishes from the dishwasher, and I look inside, and I'm like, I have no idea where this mug came from. There's, like, a new mug. And I'm like, "I've never seen this in my life." Like, I was shocked. I was like, "This is weird. Like, what is happening right now?" So I pull out this mug, and it's got a landscape of, the the wilderness. So, like, moose and, like, elk and, like, trees and everything. And I was so shocked. Like, I was sitting there, like, in disbelief, like, "Where did this mug come from?" And then I've had this moment where I was just, like, thinking, and then I put it down on the counter, and it starts fading away. What my mom got me was a heat activated mug. So it was hot from
No
the dishwasher.
way.
And in the heat, you could see the landscape of Alaska, but I didn't it was cold when I got it, so I had no idea, and my mom couldn't verbalize this to me when she was going through cancer, but it was so beautiful, like, it's a black mug, and it turns into this beautiful landscape when it's heated, and I just thought that was so precious because my mom knew that that experience was also something that I love, and she did it in the form of a mug. And going through cancer, she couldn't articulate that, but I saw it, a month later, and it was just like this moment where I was like, "This is beautiful." So, kudos to mom
This was
on the
su
the
this
thoughtful end.
was such a good story. Thank you. Even though, like, you
Oh,
did
yeah,
such
I'll
a
have
good
to get
job
you
of
pictures of
painting
the
the
mug
imagery.
before yeah, the
Yes,
mug before it
please
had
do.
I'll have to get you pictures. It's so crazy. I just wouldn't I haven't seen of course, I've seen that, I'm sure, as a child, but it's been years since I've seen, like, a heat activated mug, and it was so beautiful. So, yeah, thanks to
Yeah.
mom for that.
So special and so sweet. And
Yeah.
I love that, you know, of course, not ideal that she was in the state that she was in, and yet there was something so beautiful about the gift that you got from that mug that was so much more than the mug, that if she would have been able to tell you, it wouldn't have had that same impact, right? Because you would have been ready
No.
for it, and there's something so beautiful about, you know, just in life in general, and I know there's a lot of shifting that you've gone through in the past few years. There's just something so beautiful about allowing yourself to experience that childlike wonder and that joy, right? That comes from surprises, that comes from life, that comes from things being super beautiful that you didn't expect to be beautiful, right? You're like, "This is a great black mug. Thanks, mom." But literally the beauty under that black, finish, when heated.
Mhm.
And also, isn't that a testimony to life? Like, the pressure and the heating of that mug and what it turned into is something so far more magnificent. And I think that is definitely in alignment with your story, is what happens when you're heated, when you're challenged, when you're pushed, right? And you're getting to really step into really beautiful parts of your life because you're under that kind of pressure.
Yes, and I tell people too, this is the point no one wants to be under pressure constantly, but it is the point where
Yep.
you have to think outside the box. You have to be, creative. You have to think differently because when you have no solution in front of you, you're forced to challenge yourself to think differently and think bigger.
Yeah. Absolutely. So take us
Mhm.
back a little bit, to the younger version of
Mhm.
you, and who were you like as a little girl, and how did your childhood honestly influence who you are today?
So it's interesting because I never really realized how much it impacted today until recently when I did a talk on, building the version of you and your brand and I reminisce on childhood and a lot of things that brought me joy. So when I was a kid, I loved learning. I always loved learning. So I was that kid that loved reading. I My mom would always tell me there were times where she'd try to skip a page in a book, and I, as a little kid even, would be like, "You skipped a page. Like, you need to read that page again." Uh,
Her accountability
even as a
partner.
little child. Yeah, she's like, "I just wanna get to bed," but she's like, "Okay." My daughter knows. But yeah, I loved, like, the book series a couple book series I loved, but, The Chronicles of Narnia was one of my favorites, and I also had this sci-fi book series about a clone, a girl, like a teenage girl that was a clone that I also loved. So it very much ties into my adult life with robotics and tech and everything I did. And then the part of like mystery and fantasy and building, I have always been amazed with. So I would say things like that. And then I grew up dancing. So from the age of 5, I started with tap and jazz and really did everything. In high school, I was in the dance team, and I absolutely loved performing and being on stage. And it's very clear that it's transcended into everything I do with public speaking now because for me, I am excited to be on stage. I'm excited to be talking. And I'm really good at connecting with audiences in bigger forums like that. And I think it's because of all the things and all the experience that I had as a kid. So I would just say that that love of learning and that creative energy, that love of learning and growth has always been there for me. I also used to love being creative. So even at church, I used to write down either parts of the Bible that I really loved, or, like, started writing poems on little kids' pads and drawing little things as well. So, like, I loved creating clothes when I was a kid too. I'd take, like, bath towels and pretend like they were dresses. And so the part of, like, fashion and me being creative was always a part of me. I grew up at one point, we lived with my grandparents, and my grandma and I used to sew all the time. So she's the one who taught me how to use a sewing machine, and we made things, we made shirts, we made all different things. And so I got that love of sewing from her, and then we used to go over to my aunt's house every Sunday after church, and she had a piano, and we'd always, as kids, play on the piano. I knew nothing about playing a piano, but, you know, it was fun as a kid. And, she was the one who also was very fashionable, so even well into her 80s, I mean, my aunt was she was belly dancing, and she was, out here wearing, like, cute little Tommy Hilfiger outfits and, like, heels, so I definitely got all of my love from fashion from them. And my other grandma too, I used to always go over to her house, and we used to always do crafts. So everything from, like, embroidery to, really all you could think of. I did so many crafts when I was a kid, and that all that all trickled into adulthood.
So cool. And and what people don't know, which we'll share more in a little bit, is
Mhm.
that you like are a designer and a creator of your own brand. And so, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I think that that is the beauty of this connection, right, of childhood, that you were always creating and you were always, just kind of like exploring and doing new things. Uh and it's interesting because you didn't go there right away, right? Like that
Yeah.
wasn't the plan. So this is not a question that I have already asked, but I feel like it's necessary, right? Because people are like, "Oh my gosh, she's a designer now," and I'm like, "Y'all, we got a few years in between, right? Childhood and being a designer."
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, like first off, like why didn't you lean into that side of you at the beginning?
Yeah, so this is actually a story that I don't even know if you know. It's kind of a crazy one. Let's just say, so when I was looking at colleges and figuring out what I really wanted to do, I really had no idea. My mom was a physical therapist assistant her whole life, and I knew the medical field wasn't really for me. I've never been good with that kind of stuff. So I was like, that is not going to be it. I knew that. Um, I knew I was good with people, but I wasn't really sure. So I decided actually, but I did know I loved fashion. So I actually decided to go to school for fashion design, and I looked at art school. So I looked at Miami Art Institute. We went down there to see it. Parents weren't keen on the area. They're like, "Oh, this little like you're in the middle of the city. We don't know how we
It's
feel
not
about this."
Western Massachusetts.
No, it's not. I was in Florida. I was in Florida for high school, so I was in
Oh,
Florida.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. There was that, and then I looked at, like, Savannah College of Art and Design, I was in love with, and then there was a school out in California, which is also fashion related, and I was in love with, but my parents were like, "Honey, we love you, but we're not helping you at all if you go out of state." That was pretty much the the case, and also, with that said, I had over 75% of my tuition paid for because I had the GPA and the for in-state schools, so, it was great, I got scholarships. So, with that said, I looked at all the big state schools that could offer fashion design as a major, and Florida State was actually the only one that I looked at, I considered. I literally applied to one university and was like, "Well, I hope I get in." And thankfully I did.
You're
Because
literally a guidance counselor's worst nightmare, Maritza.
yeah,
Like,
it's good thing I was like I took, like, honors AP classes, my GPA was good, I was super involved in high school, I was that girl that was in everything. Like, I was in the fashion club, we had a fashion club in my high school, so I was in the fashion club, I did modeling events, I was on, like, our honor society, I was on the dance team, there was a lot of clubs I was in, but let's just say I was super involved. So I guess, like, my confidence there, like, I knew that I could get into the school, but yes, there was always a risk, like, I wouldn't get into Florida State, but luckily I did, and when we toured the campus, I pretty much just knew, like, this was it, like, this is where I wanted to be. So I actually started, fashion design at Florida State with a four-year program. So with that said, everything is structured out. So your first semester is these classes, second semester, so you have to stay on track or else you're there for more than 4 years. So I started the program, I did 2 years in the program, and one of this is kind of the crazy story that you might not have known about me, but during college, I actually lost one of my best friends, and he had died while it was between, going back now a lot, sophomore to junior year. It might have been before that. Might have been freshman to sophomore year. But regardless, we had dated, and so he was also a past boyfriend of mine, and we became best friends, and he was living actually in my hometown in Florida. And that was a lot for me, let's just say. Like, when we dated, it wasn't the healthiest, and so I started not doing well in school, and I also started doing things I shouldn't have in school that I didn't do, and we're just not gonna say things that college kids do, like getting involved in other things, and my grades started declining. So, freshman year, I did great, on honor roll, all that, and then they just started declining. So, I had the choice of whether to stay at Florida State an additional year in the fashion program or switch my major, and honestly, I had considered business was not the easiest thing to switch to. There was a merchandising major, I coulda easily just switched to that, but I also like challenges. So I'm like, "If I'm gonna switch my major and do it in 4 years, I want to get a business degree." So I switched to the business program and then just took summer classes so I can get out in 4 years. So the reason I actually switched was kind of personal. Like, I actually was dealing with a lot, and my grades started falling, and I still wanted to challenge myself, so I'm so thankful I got a business degree. Um, but I did leave fashion. Like, I left fashion behind. I still did modeling events here and there, in college, but it was very different, than what I intended on going into school for. And so when I graduated from Florida State, I graduated at also a tough time. So I graduated in March of 2009. It was 2009, so spring of 2009. And if you're not familiar, the economy basically tanked in 2008, and I was a business major. So, oh, yes, great career to go into. Let's go into anything business related. And a lot of the programs are rotational programs I was interested in, weren't taking interns. It was really tough, and I got my degree in marketing because I always loved the human behavior side of it. So I was always fascinated by why people do what they do. And so I ended up applying. Well, I was also again, I get super involved when I get stressed about things. I have to not be too involved, but junior year, I got into a business fraternity, which was co-ed, and I absolutely think it was one of the best things I've ever done in college. We had a house on campus because Florida State was big with Greek life, and it was an amazing experience. I met a lot of my closest friends through the business fraternity. But I say this because I was looking for marketing jobs. There weren't a ton out there with the economy and how it was, but there was a person that was alumni from our university or from our business fraternity that came back to speak on an alumni panel at Florida State. And she had mentioned that she was with Enterprise, and Enterprise Rent-A-Car is all over the US. Obviously, I didn't think about getting into automotive or rentals right after college, but she had been with the company 10 years, and that meant so much to me because I wanted to work with a company that I really believed in and somebody else kind of believed in as well. So, although I could have been close to my parents and apply in Orlando to Enterprise, I did not want to apply in Orlando and be in Florida still. So I actually looked at cities that I'd considered. We actually came to North Carolina, to Charlotte a few times. In college with my business fraternity, we did this thing called corporate tour where we would go visit businesses in our business majors, and then we would see the city the next day. So I actually did like Charlotte. So I applied to a couple positions in Charlotte, applied to positions in Boston because Boston, although I never lived in Boston, it was kind of home to me. I'm from Western Massachusetts, so obviously anything like Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins,
Mhm.
all for.
Dunkin' Donuts on every corner.
Although I wasn't drinking a coffee when I was a kid, and it's funny because I used to always pick on my parents. "How do you do this every day? I don't understand." I drink coffee all
And
the
look
time.
at you now. Yeah.
Yeah, look at me now, I'm addicted. Yeah, so I came to Boston, funny enough, for an interview with Northwestern Mutual, and I didn't have an enterprise interview set up. I applied online beforehand, but I came up for a job with Northwestern Mutual. And I interviewed in their offices in Boston, beautiful offices, and I was actually staying with my cousin who I hadn't seen in years, and she was going to be I remember getting out of the interview, though, and it just it didn't sound feasible. Northwestern Mutual at the time, I wanna say the base was, like, 10K, like, that's all you made, and then it was all commissions, and they only worked with people that made over $150,000, and at the time, I'm a college kid. Like, I have no one in my network that makes over $150,000. So I just remember being like, "Ah, I'm gonna have to tell this recruiter that like this was sounded great and everything, but it doesn't make sense financially. Like it doesn't make sense at all. Mind you, Enterprise was not paying that much more. But this was 2009 and I've moved up a lot since then, let's just say. But the funny thing is I got a call. I was really devastated to get out of this interview. I'm on the train going back to my cousin's. And I'm like, dang, well, I guess I'm not gonna be in Boston. Like I guess Boston's not for me. I get a call from the recruiter from Enterprise. And she's like, "We got your resume. I'd love to, like, interview you for this position, this management training position." And I was super excited. I was like, "I'm actually in Boston, like, you wanna meet in person?" And she's like, "Well, we always do the first one, like, via phone, so it's always a phone screen." So I interviewed with her, and she liked me, and she's like, "Well, I really like you. I wanna pass you on to the second interview. Like, can you interview in person?" And I was like, "Sure." So this was, like, I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday when this started. I interviewed the next position on Friday. I had 2 more rounds of interviews, and they made it happen by the Monday morning that I flew out. And I remember meeting the regional vice president on a Monday morning, getting on my plane. I got a call that they wanted to offer me the job. Makes me emotional here. I don't know why. I loved Enterprise. No, I really did. But like, and they offered me the job like on the plane ride back to Florida. So like, I had a position, and honestly, everyone's like, "That is insane. Enterprise never does the interviews that fast." So they must have known. I met all the folks I needed to, and I started in their South Boston office, and shortly got moved to the Prudential Center in Boston, which was one of the busiest offices because I was doing so well. So I have nothing but great things to say about the start of my career. Like getting into sales was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And it's really funny because I think I would have been there eventually no matter what, because I always look at marketing jobs, and I've had a lot of marketing strategy hybrid jobs where I've done like the B2B, working with the agency, more of the high level stuff, but I always gravitate back towards sales, and people are like, "You're truly like a salesperson at heart. Like you like numbers, you like analytics, you like driving like change forward." And
Yeah.
so it's funny because although I got a marketing degree, I can 100% see why I got into sales, and it just naturally fit. And I just kept with sales. Kind of to shorten my story a little bit, I started got into tech sales in a sense, and then moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, actually to open an office for a company. So I opened an office for a Boston company in Charlotte, and then I got into robotics, and it's been an amazing like career in corporate. Like once I got into innovation, I was hooked. I was like, I need to be here forever because this is like I see this like the human side of it and like robotic side of it, I absolutely love. So it's not a surprise to me that I got into it, but there was a point where I was like, I'm not utilizing my creativity, and I miss that, and I miss the design world, and I miss being able to create something of your own. And so that's when I actually started the idea for the company in 2018, 2019, and then officially filed the LLC in January of 2020. So it's been a long time coming, but I think it was always in the back of my mind that I would wanna do something. I was working for my friend's brand for a very long time, kind of on the side. So corporately, I didn't talk about the fact that I was doing stuff in fashion, but I was, doing model castings, I was running events and shows, I was going to New York Fashion Week, I was doing all the things. So it's not a surprise that I ended up here, but it has been like 15 years. So
But also what's really cool, and it's kind of been coming up in my life and, yeah, in a lot of different ways, is just like if we would have done it on our timing, and
mhm.
not God's timing, right, we wouldn't have actually really been equipped. And what you just shared with us was all of these tools and experiences and responsibilities and initiatives and people that you now have, right, to be able to actually execute your brand in the way that you've always dreamed of, right? Take away any of that experience of not doing New York Fashion Week or not traveling to bigger cities and knowing what it's like to live in the hustle and bustle or working for large corporate brands, right? You wouldn't have any of this knowledge on how to then build your own, right?
Yeah.
And it is hard to build a business. And I do think that we have that in common in the sense that I started in retail as well. And it is, starting retail sales. Um, but it is that foundation of working for you know, like Old Navy, Gap Inc., right? I ran a $10 million store, but like in itself, right? That's
Yeah.
not even the entire brand. And so when you get that high level of exposure and you're meeting regional vice presidents, right? And you're meeting all these people, it really makes it like pretty simple when you walk into a room to network and they're like, "Oh, hi, I'm the president of this really small real estate firm." And everyone else is like, "Oh my gosh, like this person." You're like, "Oh, that's somebody like really important." Like I right, because your experience is so scaled differently, right,
Yeah,
to
it
theirs.
taught me so much. And I think about even my time at Enterprise, like, the beauty of working at Enterprise is I worked at a number of different offices. So, it's a good thing when they like who you are, you'll get to go to different offices, and moving to the Prudential, so I worked in what is now Southie, and everyone knows is, like, the cool hip area. South Boston wasn't that back when I started, but it was more of we had body shop repair customers, we had insurance customers, like, it was a different clientele than it is now, like, less of, like, the people coming in town, like, corporate customers. But when I moved to Prudential Center, we worked with all the concierges in town. We worked with the nicest, like, the most exclusive hotels. Like, we had to kinda have a certain caliber, to work with those people, but we also had to understand there's gonna be people that need cars that don't even wanna get a rental car. It's 'cause their car is in the shop, and they don't even wanna be part doing this. So you had to and we had to clean cars. So and I don't regret a moment of it because they had us do everything. We had to understand where the people were, like, what they were coming into. So I learned so much there, and yeah, it is kind of it's comical in a sense because even in sales, I was talking to my friends, they're both in sales. This was literally this week, how we still get awkward doing things. Like, I feel like sales, like, as comfortable as you are talking to a CEO of a company, versus, like, just an employee or anyone, like, you still get awkward pitching, and you still get awkward in moments, and you're like, "Why am I in my head?" I think that just comes back to human behavior, but I've been doing this for a while, and I do appreciate the fact that I've been uncomfortable for a very long time in sales. Like, sales is never you have great years, you have okay years, you have I mean, it's great if you have great years all the time, but I'm saying i in a corporate career when you're there for that long, it's very unlikely you're gonna have the best year every year, especially
Yeah,
because corporations like to up your metrics every year. They're like, "Well, you did
every
this
year.
great this year. We're gonna up this by this much." Yeah, so I'm
We're gonna
very
do
much
more.
appreciative. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna do more.
it's a little yeah, I have lots of thoughts, which we won't spend the time. But also, I think that, like, shout out to, any, top executive, at Enterprise, if you'd like to, invest in her brand. I think this would be a great time because she's literally given you guys the best review and advertising you could ever, ask for. And also, if you wanna sponsor the podcast, I'm happy, to have a conversation with you. So,
Yeah, I will
I
say
love that you had that experience.
some of my original leaders are still there, and it is beautiful to
That's
see,
so
like,
funny.
I remember my area manager at the time who was a couple levels above me as a management trainee, and he would make the time, like, as soon as I got moved to the Prudential Center office, which is a very busy office, he met me for lunch, and he was like, "Congratulations, Maritza, I'm so proud of you," and I will never forget those moments because he didn't have to do that, and but it's leadership like that and my RVP, super close, to this day, just incredible people. Like, they cared about the human side so much, and that's where I've gotten the blessing of working for corporations that I absolutely adore, like, everything about it. I worked for Marriott too, like, wonderful company, but I've also got the experience of working for companies that were not so great, and the leadership
Yeah,
was not great, and I've also seen the reverse of, like, what poor leadership can do to a company, and
absolutely.
it's bad. I mean, it's not the company I wanna lead, so I'm thankful for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I said yeah, and I think like you said, the opportunity to have both, just gives you the experience to know what you, do and don't wanna create, right?
Mhm.
Because again, now you get to be the one that sets the tone of standard of excellence, right? Operational excellence, people excellence, product excellence, and yeah, it's all this experience, and I talk about this often, honestly. I have recently talked there's a gentleman here, in our space here that, like, just he just does it different. You definitely attract the people that just do leadership different. And I always tell him, like, it's just not hard, right? It's just not hard to treat your people well. And yet it's the thing that, like, I'm like, I don't understand like how people get this way. And maybe, you and I are set apart and that's a gift, right? But also I'm like, I don't think it's really that hard. And so I think it's important when individuals feel that way like us who have had different experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. And then they have the passion and the desire to go and create their own thing, right? Like you're creating your brand, which I want to talk about next. Chris and I creating our $1 billion empire, all the things that we're doing. Like I want to do it different, right? I want to be set apart. I want to be a brand like I've experienced where people like they know that when you work for them, when you buy their products, you buy their services, you're a part of what they're doing. They're different, right? They're not going to settle for the status quo. They're not going to jump on the next trend, right? They're thoughtful, right? They just to me it feels like I think a lot of brands in this day and age think of it as a risk and or they are very short-sighted and don't recognize the long-term value of doing things differently and that, you might not be able to make a quick return and it might cost you some in the beginning. But it actually is going to make you dividends, right? Multiplication dividends long term because it's a numbers game, right? So you may lose some at the front, but the more and more people that know that you do it differently, that treat your people differently, that, do you design differently, you source differently, it's just a matter of that information getting out there and, everyone's gonna be attracted to that. So, yeah, I we could have a whole conversation on leadership, and how to do it right. I wanna hear more about your brand. Tell us all the things because we've really, like, built the audience up of, like, what you're doing now, and so share with us what is the name of your brand, what you're doing, what are you inspiring to do, and what are ways that people, can get involved and, be supportive of what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So it's Maritza Marie. That's my first and middle name. And it's a high heel brand centered around comfort and really I'm out to change the shape of footwear. So footwear hasn't changed for a very long time. And we still are wearing uncomfortable shoes. And so it's really kind of meshing the design elements, the structured design that I absolutely love and adore, and putting more comfort behind that as well. So my mission too is really to eliminate discomfort, not just in what you wear, but how you feel. So my brand is really centered around empowerment. I myself, being in corporate for 15 years, I've worked in very male dominated industries and where I've had to be in very uncomfortable situations and kind of push myself and kind of, I guess, advocate for myself more than I should have had to in certain situations. So a lot of the brand too comes back to feeling confident in your own skin and my design style is very much minimalistic, but there's something unique about the designs that make them stand out because I never felt like you had to be the one to wear the loudest colors or do the boldest things to make moves. You can do it subtly and you can do it by just doing things right over time. Really, I created these heels because I wore very uncomfortable heels all throughout corporate. And I will say there are comfortable heels on the market, but they just weren't designed beautifully. They were just black heels. They were just very simple.
Ugh.
Or there's the ones
Yeah,
that
the
are
cushion on the inside is so ugly. I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
it
it's
triggered something.
fine.
Like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or there's the ones that, maybe they're designed beautifully, but they're just not comfortable at all. And it's really so the interesting thing about being in innovation, I've been at conferences where I've seen the brightest and biggest ideas. Like I've been around some of the smartest people in the universe, and it is exciting. It's thrilling. And I will say, like fashion related events, like when I first started getting into the industry, we've gotten a little better now. But it was there was very little innovation focus. They weren't trying to change things in systems that have worked for years. And to some sense, like I use European manufacturers because of the craftsmanship and the artisanship, and they know how to build beautiful heels, and they have been doing it for a very long time. And there's such a beauty to like the story and the history and the fact that this has been the family for generations. So I wanted to capture that, but I do want to push the envelope. So um, we as a I think industry need to push the envelope a little bit more, but I'm excited to see eventually I want to have all this R&D in-house. But right now I'm using partners that have innovation in insoles and innovation in materials. But ultimately, I want to change the shape of footwear and make footwear look sleek and sexy, but also feel comfortable. And so that's going to take time and money, but I'm very excited because this came from just a pain point of mine. I've worn uncomfortable heels. I've lived in them. You come up like blisters, bruises, like it's not sexy. It's doing exactly what we set out to do, like the opposite of what we set out to do. We wanted to create heels to make women feel sexy, and it is not doing that. So, I'm very excited about this journey. Like, it's been like I said, the concept probably started 2018, 2019. 2020 was when I filed the LLC. Little did we know there would be a pandemic in March of 2020.
You
So
just
it
really
kinda
keep getting the lulls of the economy is really what
I know,
happens.
I'm like, just, yeah, I'm just hoping at one point, like, it'll but I don't know, it's not feeling we won't even go into an AI conversation, but being in tech and robotics and dealing with AI, I'm a little nervous about a lot of things, but we'll table that for later. But I will say, yeah, I'm like, it's taken so I didn't launch until this year, but I also didn't source my manufacturer until 2023. So it was nearly 3 years in development, but we wanted to get it right, and then, unfortunately, I lost my mom during that time, so I had to take a pause for about 6 months, but I've never lost focus of what I wanted to do. I myself loved heels. So when I started in fashion design, I didn't know I wanted to be a heel designer. I just knew I wanted to design something. And it's no surprise to me that I ended up designing heels because of my background, because of my aunt, because of how much I adored heels growing up. Um, Played with Barbies a lot too. All of them had they had the hot pink heels, but like,
Yep, yep.
loved my little Barbie heels. But yeah, it's something that there's a feeling that I want to create and I have created with some of our customers already, which is the most magical thing when I don't have to tell my customer how to feel and they're at an airport and they get noticed and they feel like someone else. Like that is so beautiful to me. Or like when you're out and you get on stage and you're like, I love that. Like, it's that moment that just brightens your day, and I wanna create that for everyone, and I also wanna make people fall in love with heels again. I feel like we've gotten away from heels, and my mission is to really make people feel empowered and feel like they can walk in heels and feel like they're, stunning in heels because at the end of the day, like, it's all about confidence. So, anyone can wear heels. I do have to teach some people how to walk in heels, but we're on that mission too, so it's fine. But ultimately, like, I always wanted to create something that was beautiful and I didn't have to do it in an over the top way and I could use materials that have been around forever. I still wanted the longevity of materials and I just look to bring more innovation into the industry ultimately. So in a nutshell, that's
Yeah.
what I do. You could go to maritzamarie.com and there's shoes available on the website. I do work with boutiques as well, and I have a larger collection for boutiques and online stores like department stores. And easiest way to kind of get involved, you can follow us on Instagram at Shop Maritza Marie or just sign up for the email list because the email list ultimately will do limited drops, we'll do more collections, and fun events. Like I see this as experiential too. So it's not just going to be about shoes, it's going to be about lifestyle.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And I've told you this from day one. I cannot wait to get a pair of your heels. I'm like, God, can you drop down the revenue because I just want a new pair of shoes? And I love again that it's like such a combination of all the things, right? There's all of your experience in sales and design and innovation, but also probably something you weren't expecting, which is like cover that in empowerment and cover that in just adding value, right, to a woman and her experience. And, that has come as a result of the resilience and the endurance, right, and of the experiences that you had to go through, good, bad, or indifferent, and losing your mom, right? So I think that it's just really cool to see your story where you are now is such a culmination of everything. And I know that like I love what you're creating because again, I also think there's this like really awful mentality that we have in general that like instead of investing in the right thing once, we buy a bunch of the wrong things multiple times. And so I went through a journey with my own health and wellness business of redirecting my mindset of like, oh, if I invest in a higher quality skincare, instead of buying 5 bottles 5 times a month, right? Because I'm running out of it or like, it goes through quickly, but I can buy a brand that I use less, right? It's better for me. It lasts longer, right? And the results are there. And that's how I feel your brand is like invest in quality, invest in something that's going to last and invest because you have such a simple design. You're investing in thousands of different outfits, right? It's not a matter of I need this shoe and I need this shoe. It's like, yeah, you want to buy all her shoes because they're beautiful and you can put them in different places in your life, but you could get a pair or two and interchange them beautifully in a variety of outfits, a variety of places, whether it's church, whether it's girls' night out, whether it's date night, whether it's your son or daughter's graduation. Like I feel like you're creating a shoe for every human experience. Wow, you're welcome for that. That just like came right out because we just were talking about your
Yeah. I love it, and I love to see that you see what I see because sometimes as a founder and someone who has big visions, like, my vision is way over here, like, I have a million things planned for the company, but you have to
yeah.
focus on the here and now, and, like, it's incredible to see you see what I see, because I do think there's and the outfit thing, I'll tell you, even my friend had bought one of her pairs of shoes, and I'm staying with her at this trip because I'm looking at boutiques here in California, and as soon as I got in the hotel room, she wasn't here yet, but I saw one of my shoes, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited," and, like, she brought them because they go really well with her business outfit that she's wearing to the conference, and she wore them yesterday, and it was the cutest outfit in the world, and it's things like that that make me happy because I don't even have to say it, but people feel it, so yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I think the biggest challenge, starting out is just getting your name out there and getting your brand out there. The market is very saturated with especially fast fashion and things that you can click and buy and get tomorrow. And although, delivery, we have inventory and it's based in North Carolina and I can ship it out, it's less of like, I don't plan to be the trendy thing on the market. I wanna be the one that's there for there with you now and for the future, and that's why even things like I look at, like, the core base of the people that are our customers, like, I wanna be there to evolve the shoe brand with you. I wanna know what shoes do you like the best and see that and capitalize on that and make more collections with that, because ultimately, heels can look beautiful, but if people don't wanna wear them, they're wasteful too. So, yeah, it's a balance.
I'm crying and the Holy Spirit does this to me every once in a while, but like there is an emotion that happens when I truly feel the impact before it's happened, and I think that's why I cry. I'm still learning myself and understanding why it is the Holy Spirit makes me like my eyes well up. But what I just saw, Maritza, was building a brand that goes on for generations, because what you just shared at the beginning of this episode was the generations 2 and 3 above yours that
Mhm,
laid the foundation and that helped to develop your love of fashion and creativity and beauty, and all that you are now doing through
mhm,
your brand is doing the same, right? You're doing the same of creating generational design and fashion and beauty
mhm.
in a way that you experienced it through your grandmothers, and now you're gonna get to grow with these women when they say, "Oh my gosh," like, I could really actually full on cry. I am so excited because I bought my daughter her first pair of Maritza Marie heels, or I'm so excited my grandmother had a pair and they still fit me. The wildest experience is that I did actually wear my grandmother's shoes for a long time. There was a pair of shoes. They were not, I mean, I think they were okay quality, but they were not what you're creating
Mhm.
intentionally. And I just like loved them. And I was like, how cool is it that I get to like wear my grandmother's shoes? And so I wore them for several years after she passed away. And that's what you're creating is the human experience in shoes that gets to transcend generations. And that just
Yeah.
like it hasn't even happened yet. And I can already
Well
see it. And
well,
it's
I will
so
say
incredible.
I have another friend that got a pair, and her before she even wore 'em out, her daughter grabbed them from the closet because her daughter loves shoes. I always forget her age, but she's, like, around 3 or so, and she's walking in these high heels. I mean, they're the highest ones I have, so, like, about 4 inches, and she walks like it's nothing, like, and she loves
Yeah.
them. She'll take them out of the closet repeatedly, and I'm like, "This is the cutest, most adorable thing I've ever seen," but it's also yeah, it's a core memory. I mean, I had that core memory as a child, and to think like, yeah, my I had this moment the other day at the gym because being a business owner, it does get hard, and you're like, "Am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing?" Like, especially when, like, with a product company, it's like there's so people look at it and, like, the price point, like, "Oh, you must be making, millions." And I'm like, "That you think that, but the thing is there's so much that goes into it, like the manufacturing costs, the upfront costs, there's a lot." It gets to be a lot sometimes when you think about it, but I had this moment at the gym where I, like, sat back and I was like, I'm actually a fashion designer. Because even in someone said that to me at, like, an event the other day. They're like, "Oh, so you're a fashion designer." And it's wild because, yes, I am, but it also is, like, that moment where this was my dream when I was, 17, 16, even younger. So it's, like, crazy to think, like, I am actually living my dream. It doesn't look
S
like I thought
s
it would, but, like, it's still beautiful, but that's
That's okay. That's okay. I was listening to a sermon today, reminded, Pastor Furtick, and he had said it was actually his wife that was saying this to me, but he'd already said it, and it was like, we have to hold tight to the promise, but we release the plan, right?
yeah.
The promise and the dream was to design and create and build something of your own, and you felt that was gonna be possible. But at the how, you had to release it because it's coming together more beautifully than you could have ever imagined. And when we really allow God to work in that place of faith, of uncertainty, like a lot of the next steps you're taking for the business and personal life, it's like he's going to do it way better than you could ever imagine, which is kind of hard because we're like, so I'd like to be here by this time and this date. And then can you also add this to my bank account? And, you know, but you're getting to see the beauty of that, which is incredibly special.
Y Yeah, and
I
you
love
do
that
want
for
to have
you.
those moments of reflection because I will say I don't do it enough, and I need to do it more because even my mentors, I started and I completely recommend getting involved with mentorship groups and communities, and there's one I got involved with probably back in 20 well, actually, I had the interview with them the month my mom passed, so it was January of 2024, and I don't think this group realized, like, how impactful that was because when I interviewed and got added to their cohort of mentees, like, it was a blessing too because I was like, "I just lost my mom," like, it's, like, a very, like, this was, like, encouragement that I was on the right track, but I say this all to say, at that point, I may have had a round of prototypes or samples, but really with my mentors, I just had an idea and a vision, and, of course, I, in my head, knew this would always be a product. you know, like, I'm gonna get there. But it's funny because they've even brought up the fact, like, "Maritza, when we met you, you literally had an idea. Like, you literally just told us you were gonna do this, and that's it." Like, but I, in my head, knew it was always gonna happen, but I have to remember, like, that throughout the process. Like, I have multiple ideas. Like, I have more designs in the queue. It's like but I know it's gonna happen, but the world doesn't see it yet. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I have moments where, people even the people you love the most, are critical of certain things, and then you have to reflect, and then you get, like, other business owners or other, like, friends to be like, "Well, what do they specifically know about this product?"
Yes. Yeah. I
Just have
always
moments.
I always say on this show, our family's advice is filled with love and coated with fear.
Mhm.
And it's because they care, right? It's because they care. They feel like they can tell you what they think.
Mhm.
Except I was told this very young, and then I want to wrap up with one other question. I was told this very young that you should be seeking advice from the people that are where you want to be. And it was the most life-changing piece of advice because it's not just business, right? But if you're a single person looking to find your partner, a great man or woman who is going to grow with you, I don't think it's a good idea to talk to your friends that maybe need some more healing and have been in toxic relationships, right? If you are someone that you want a certain job, right? And you happen to be talking to family members who maybe haven't even gotten to the level of education that you've gotten to. Probably
Mhm.
not the right people to talk to. And the reason being it's not because their advice is bad or good or anything, but they genuinely do not have the framework to give you quality advice or guidance to where you want to go because they've never been there, right? Like you're going to places they haven't been. And so I love my friends and family, and there are friends that I go to for certain parts of my life, and there are friends that I go to for other parts of my life. But in general, I've had to learn that if I go to my friends or my family expecting them to tell me what I need to hear for building this empire or working the way that we're working, I'm not going to get that because they've never done what I've done. Right. And so they're
Yeah.
not going to they can't even process it. And it's not even their fault. And that's the thing. It's like, this doesn't have to be emotional. It's just factual. It's like they genuinely don't know. So let's spare the emotions of it all and just look to someone who does.
Mhm. Agreed.
Yeah.
I always
It's
another piece of
powerful.
advice that kind of is in line with that is, like, not dress for the job you want, not the job you have. I learned that at Enterprise, and we always wore suits and dressed up, and I'm not saying you have to be in a suit, but I'm saying, like, it's just going with that more of understand the becoming is the being. So you need to feel that right now because you're never gonna get that next level if you don't feel it currently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
You touched on it a few seconds ago, and I kind of wanted to wrap it up with this, but
Mhm.
um, knowing all that you experience, like knowing the moments that have meant the most to you with your mom and just the life that you lived together and her passing so suddenly and so, young in your life, what what is the legacy that you believe you're carrying on with her here, while she may not be here with us on earth?
So, that's an interesting question because I don't my mom had probably was one of the sweetest souls ever. She would tell you people said even at her, when we did her ceremony, she never had a mean thing to say about anyone. She was always kind and led with kindness. But something that was even more interesting, which I didn't realize until in the moment, I took my mom, she used to write to me all the time when I was in college and always call me. And I would probably only call her back, and my mom would tell you this, when I was walking between classes, because that was the most efficient time for me to talk to my parents. And so she but she'd write me a letter almost every week of college, and I didn't write her back that much, but she did get letters every so often. So I've saved nearly all of her letters, and I have hundreds of letters from my mom. She would tell me about how the week's going, add Bible verses, just where they were traveling to. She'd send postcards all the time. And when I read a few of her letters, the ones that kind of just called to me at her ceremony when we were I should say, like, we didn't really do, like, it was more like, yeah, a burial ceremony, I would say. When I was reading them, somebody made a comment like, "That's so beautiful. Your mom is living through you with your writing." And I never really thought, like, about that because people were like, "I think you're gonna write a book one day." And, ooh, it's so much to want. I absolutely love to write. Like, I love to write, and I have this story that will soon come out at some point, um, about this bird that travels throughout the world, and the bird kind of looks at everything from one point of view and just is opened up to experiences and sees things differently. So, it's a book that I always wrote when I was on planes. I just love to travel so much, and I think travel gives you a broader perspective and just opens up your mind to so much. So, I know my mom's writing is still in me, and she wrote a little booklet that I will release to the world at some point, and it was about just the troubles we went through as a family. My younger brother has although we look like a big happy family, he was always troubled in school. He had a lot of trouble growing up, and it's a big story that I have yet to tell, but my mom cared so much and so deeply about him that I know that story will live on in me as well. So, I say this all to say I think it's the writing, and I think it's the kindness and the empathy that my mom showed towards everyone. She even in her last days, she worked per diem at the hospital, and my dad always says she only really worked at the hospital because it was her travel money every year. So, she could go on a trip every year, but she only worked a few days a month, as a physical therapist assistant at her local hospital, and until even the day we found out she had stage 4 cancer. She was so sad because we told her she was probably gonna have to retire from the hospital, and she didn't wanna do that because she didn't wanna let down her patients because she cared so much about them. And I'll never forget my mom saying that because she has the biggest heart in the world, and she cared so much about people, and so I know I have this ability to connect with people at a different level that is very intuitive and very much like my mom, so oh my gosh, this is a very emotional talk, but I love my mom so much. She means the world to me. Actually, this necklace, little did I know until I saw her wedding photos, was the one she was wearing in her wedding photos. She gave it to me years ago. She didn't tell me she wore it at her wedding. But I love my mom so much. But yeah, I would say it's going to live on through my creations, my designs, my writing, and my love of the world and my love of travel. So, my mom's not going anywhere anytime soon, and she even did say she could write a second book, like, when she was in her cancer phase and she was writing it, she actually wrote a lot of stuff that we couldn't read, um, but she actually said it would be about surviving cancer, and although she didn't survive cancer, I do think there's a second book out there for sure. So, yeah. Love
See,
my mom.
well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us and
Yes.
inviting us in and also again just getting to be just so vulnerable with where her heart gets to live within you personally, professionally and you know, it's the people in our lives like that that leave such an impression that frame the way that we live our lives. I think it's what sets entrepreneurs and visionaries apart, right? Because you're not motivated by the things of this world, right? You're motivated by the characteristics and the qualities of your mom. You're motivated by being a vehicle for her stories and being a vehicle for design and getting to go places that she only dreamed about. Like those are so internally rooted that will continue to inspire you and inspire just more creations and designs. So I'm excited.
I'm excited. I know she is too. Love her.
So cool. So cool. Well, let's wrap up with some, because now that I really got you in the emotion, let's get into some lifestyle questions. Okay. We both
Yeah,
cried during
I'm
this
not like
episode.
a super it's funny because when it comes to business, I'm not emotional probably at all, but when it comes to, like, personal stuff, I do, get a little caught up.
Well, we're grateful that you were yourself here, right? Like that's the goal of this is to interview ordinary people living extraordinary lives and to bless one person every episode. And I know that there's already somebody, like literally there's a moment every episodes where it feels like I use this example of, in It's a Wonderful Life when like the bell rings and an angel gets its wings. That's like how I feel in these episodes. There's a moment, right? And there was two moments today where I was like, oh, that's it, right? That's it. And I already know that there are already two people dog-eared for being blessed by your story. So, and it hasn't even come out to the rest of the world, which is really cool. So, what is your favorite local business? What you could really pick wherever you want, but that you frequent
I know
that
I'm
you
such
want to
a
shout
traveler. I'm like, where do I pick? And I should pick Charlotte, where I live. I'll give a couple, I'll give 2 because I think, like well, I'll get for the story. I do not drink right now, but I love this place called Dilworth Tasting Room, and I like the original spot. I just feel like it's a tapas place and wine bar, but the experience every time I go there has been amazing, and my vibe is like lounge kind of wine bar vibes, so when I do go out so I would say that's a great one, just because of the service and every time I've been, it's been kind of a staple since I moved to Charlotte, so I started going and I still go, I take friends there. That's a good one, and then the other one, since I love coffee. I could talk about coffee for a while. But there's a place called Backyard Brew in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've had the opportunity to meet the owners, and I think it's an incredible spot, and I like it, again, same reason, the experience. I almost don't wanna give it away, but, like, typically, they give you, like, a little duck, like, when you come in, and so it's just like a trinket to kind of leave with, but they try to customize all the drinks, so they ask you kind of the sweetness level, and their menu is so long, so you can pretty much get whatever you like, any kind of coffee, or they have teas as well, or other types of drinks, so I just love the experience, and I just like the story. I'm very big on the story, so uh, yeah, I would say kinda those are probably the local spots that I like, and just frequent because, I'm just a big fan.
I love it. And also, there's no shame. I felt the same way. There's an interview that already came out that I was interviewed. My intern, Virginia, interviewed me. And she was like, all right, the next question I'm going to ask, which is like, what's a book that you've read multiple times that someone needs to read? And I was like, can I pick 3 categories? My life is a charcuterie board. Like, I like to have a little bit of everything. So I totally get it. I can't always pick one because it's like one in this category, one in this category, one in this category. It's the same.
Yeah, in the realm of books, I'm in the middle of, like, 5 right now, and I feel like I have a book for every recommendation. I was like, "Do you need, like, a business book? Do you need a sales book? Do you need a negotiation book? What do we at? What do we struggle with? I got you."
So good. So good. Okay. So what is a book that you believe someone
Well,
needs to read that you've read multiple times?
actually, so not one that, like, so this is not, okay, how should I say this? This is a book, and I'll say this, that because I remember people saying I should read it. And I looked at this book, and there's little text in the book, and it's like, why am I gonna spend this much money for, like, not much text? I didn't really see the value of it. But then I read it, and I see the value of it. I don't know if you've ever read Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I think I'm
I
saying the
have not
cover.
read it, but I've heard of it, and I watched a
Yeah.
clip. So that
So
should
it
know which one you're
basically
talking.
talks about, throwing out things that don't, like, spark joy in your life. But the premise, and I think the importance of this, is that there are so many things going on in our world and so many distractions. And just by kind of cleaning your house in the center of where you live is so important. And so I say this because I've taken things, nuggets from that book, and there, if you see my sock drawer, you might think I'm crazy, but it's inspiration from the book. So there's little things, but it makes you just realize kind of where, gives you more focus on everything. So like you place things a certain way to understand, like to see less clutter in the world. And I think it just helps when we have so much coming at us on a daily basis, whether it's information or what to do next or how to feel or all of that. And so just by tidying up your life, it's just so important for that mental capacity.
Yeah,
So I would say
so
that one.
good. That was a great recommendation. That was great, and it's a
Yes.
and
And like
kudos to such.
unassuming. It's unassuming, but and then I'm pretty sure she has like a Netflix documentary now too, or like a Netflix special. So there's other ways to like absorb the information, but I definitely recommend.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, and I agree on the, just really assessing, like, where you're at and what you have and, because all that stuff does carry a weight physically, but also, like, spiritually and emotionally, and so, yeah, and I know that, like, my mom is really navigating that herself, like, because we had grandparents from the Depression, and so they held on to everything, and then you have the generation below that who, like, went through a lot of wartime, and it's like, well, we still keep everything, but, like, this one this one magnet that we got from this one park, and I can't remember the park, but I just remember, like, there's value in those things, right? And for
Mhm.
sure, there's a moment where there are things that matter. And I think if we say that for everything, it's like we end up still having all the things that we had. So I love that Marie Kondo was doing that and just bringing those techniques and just allowing people, like you said, to pause and reflect, which is really beautiful.
And I think it also just goes to say, like, cultures are so all the cultures of the world are so different, and there's so much you can take from different cultures that they kind of swear by, live by. There's a reason. And so I just think
Yeah,
there's so many, like, practices, that are important in every culture.
absolutely. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Thank you so much for coming and doing this episode. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
This is fun. I know, I feel like I could talk for hours, so I have so much
We
more.
really could. We really and I literally I was like, 'cause it's one of those conversations, it's, like, flowing so easily, but I'm like,
Yeah.
"Look at the time, Brittany, keep a look at the time," and all of a sudden, because I'm in a soundproof room, so it could really go very far, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I never know where I am. There's no windows in here." Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "Oh, crap. I missed everything." Well, you guys, Marie's already shared the ways that you can go and support. Maybe it is grabbing a pair of shoes, or maybe it's knowing someone who needs a pair of shoes, or maybe it's just sharing the brand. You can follow her on Instagram. We'll put all of the Instagram and the website in our show notes. And so you can hear what she's doing and cheer her on. I think we underestimate the value of word of mouth advertising, even if it is just a recommendation, right? It doesn't mean that these shoes are fit for you. That's okay. No pun intended. But you may know someone who is, and them to have this experience that she's offering could genuinely be a difference between getting an interview, right? Or, meeting their future partner. Like there's so many possibilities. So definitely check out all the things that she's doing. Follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us wherever you, on all of our socials. Share this episode. Share. We are global. We're in so many different countries, and I want to continue to do that. As always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.